So I want to thank you so much for joining this evening to learn how you can electrify your ride with a used EV during our pre-owned savings campaign. My name is Annika Osborne, and I'm with Cool the Earth. We are an environmental nonprofit with a mission to reduce carbon emissions and air pollution. And while we are big fans of walking, biking, public transit, and carpooling, preferably in an EV or on an e-bike, I've seen it. With our Ride and Drive Clean collaboration, we work to advance the adoption of electric vehicles, EVs and e-bikes, in a fair and just marketplace. I'd like to thank the City of Palo Alto Utilities for sponsoring this webinar and our campaign, and Emotion Autos for partnering with us on this program. Co-founder of Emotion Autos, Adam, is with us today to share more information about the program. Here's the agenda. So we're going to talk briefly about the benefits of driving electric. Many of you who are here already know that you want to go electric. We'll talk about incentives for pre-owned EVs. We'll talk about our savings campaign and how it works. We'll even talk a little bit about our new EV discount campaign, which is also running in May. We'll do a pre-owned EV showcase with sample pricing on used EVs. Talk a little bit about why you would consider a used EV versus a new one, how to EV, and then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. In fact, we'll have we'll stop a couple times throughout this presentation for Q&A. And we will be going over lots of information, but not to worry. I'll be sending an email tomorrow with a PDF of this presentation and the recording of the presentation as well. And some important links. If any questions come up, though, feel free to ask them in the chat. And as I said, we will pause them. If you have a burning question, feel free to raise your hand, and we will call on you as well. All right, let's dive in. So there are many benefits to driving electric. In California, our passenger vehicles are the single largest source of GHG emissions, representing up to 50% of our individual carbon footprint. So when we switch from a gas car to an EV and plug into clean energy, like we can do here in the Bay Area, we are taking impactful climate action by reducing carbon emissions and air pollution, both which disproportionately impact our priority communities. And while driving electric is better for the planet, there's no sacrifice when you go electric. EV drivers save time, money, and enjoy an improved driving experience. Before I talk about the total cost of ownership, I'd like to address the current situation with EVs. So we believe that now is a great time to get an EV. The implementation of tariffs is causing a lot of uncertainty for auto manufacturers, which may impact future pricing and inventory of new EVs. And we believe this is going to be trickling down to the used market. We're, in fact, already seeing prices going up in the used EV market. And then there's the EV tax credit for pre-owned and new EVs. But for pre-owned, it's available for up to $4,000, $7,500 for a new EV. It's currently on the chopping block in Congress. And if it's passed, it will put an end to the federal tax credit for EVs, which has helped people buy new EVs, buy and lease new EVs, and purchase used EVs. So we are following the news closely, and we'll make announcements as we know, as they come. So anyway, now is a really good time, I would say, in the next month or so, as things are changing very quickly to get an EV. So although early EV drivers paid a high premium for electric cars, today's EV drivers often save money, particularly with pre-owned EVs. And here are some reasons why. It costs much less to fuel an electric car. Fueling a gas car can be 2 to 5 times more expensive than fueling an EV, depending upon where and when you charge it. Electricity prices tend to be more stable than gas prices, as we've seen over the past several years. However, I will Just put it out on the table. Electricity prices have gone up significantly in the last year, I think 6 or 7 times. So that's the thing. We're still seeing that, there are some great time of use rates that you can get on with an EV so that you can keep those charging costs down at home. In addition, maintenance costs with a fully electric EV are 40% lower than a gas car. It's basically adding windshield wiper fluid and rotating your tires. It is true that you may have to replace your tires a little more frequently with an EV because the batteries are a little heavier than, the mechanics of a gas car. So it will wear the tires out a little bit faster. And then there are incentives available, which can significantly bring down the cost of purchasing or leasing an EV, particularly for people in our low wealth communities. So we're going to dive right into incentives. For some people who live in the Bay Area, they can save up to $17,500 with stacked incentives. Many of these are income based. So there are all sorts of incentives. There is our current EV savings campaign that can help you navigate all of the incentives. There's the federal clean vehicle tax credit that we talked about for pre-owned EVs up to $4,000. The Drive Clean Assistance Program. PG&E has a rebate on pre-owned EVs, $1,000 for anyone who gets a bill from PG&E, and $4,000 if your income qualifies. And some CCAs and utilities also offer incentives. And the good news about these is that these incentives can be stacked. A good idea for everyone on this webinar is to check the savings calculator to see exactly which incentives you qualify for. So many of you came here to learn about our pre-owned EV savings campaign. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So during the month of May, we have Ride and Drive Clean is offering this campaign with our partner, Emotion Autos. Emotion Autos collaborates with you to find the right EV at the right price, helps identify and apply all eligible incentives, inspects and refurbishes the EV for quality and reliability, and offers an exclusive 10-day, no questions asked return policy, which is really significant. Through this savings campaign, you don't have an opportunity to test drive the exact EV that you're going to get. So that's why we have this 10-day return policy. I'm just going to focus in a little bit on how it works. So it starts with us, with Ride and Drive Clean. We are running this campaign, and so you have to fill out a form on the Ride and Drive Clean site. Then you will schedule a 15-minute initial consultation with Emotion Autos so they can find out what the right type of EV is for your lifestyle and budget. If you are ready to move forward, you would sign a letter of intent and provide a $500 search fee to Emotion Autos. Then Emotion Autos will go out to the wholesale market to find the exact pre-owned EV that you are looking for, do their best to find the exact one anyway. You will receive detailed information on specific EV candidates that match, the requirements that you are looking for. And once the vehicle and price are settled, Emotion Autos will try to acquire that EV for you. The EV is then inspected, reconditioned, and delivered to your home. I will say, put in my own personal plug, I have purchased 2 used EVs through Emotion Autos. So I've gone through this process. It's worked really great. So I actually have 3 EVs in my household. They were all bought used, and we love them all for different reasons. So while if you're interested in getting a used EV, and you need it tomorrow, a good idea is to go to a dealership. Because you can find an EV, whatever their supply is at the dealership, is available to you. You can test drive the car and you can leave that same day with that EV. So going through this process takes about 3 to 4 weeks because you're working very closely with, with expert consultations from Emotion Autos. And then they have to find that car, that you're looking for. And just, I wanted to highlight the refund policy. There is that $500 search fee, which is fully refundable until Emotion Autos secures the agreed upon vehicle. Also, we are offering this exclusive 10-day no questions asked return policy, and a restocking fee of $500 does apply. So how do we do this? How do we get started? So actually, you're going to go to the Ride and Drive Clean page. I'm actually going to just copy this link here. I'm going to just throw this in the chat real quickly. So you would go to this page, figure out, read a little bit about this program. And then there's a forum down here. This is where you'll click yes if you're ready to start the process of buying a pre-owned EV, or to have an initial consultation with Adam. Then you just click here. If you're just kind of loosely interested, but you don't really want to go for it this month, you can just select this button. So make sure you hit the submit button, and somebody from Emotion Autos will get back to you within 24 hours. Sorry. Back to the slideshow. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Adam right now. He's going to go through some sample pricing on some popular EVs that they have been selling over the past 2 years since they've been doing this. We figure you want to kind of see what it is that we have to offer. So take it away, Adam.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me, I hope?
Yes.
Are we good?
Yes.
Great. So again, Adam Borison, Emotion Autos. A lot of stuff we can talk about, incentives and regulations and all that. But what I thought would be useful to do, it would basically to describe what's the goal here. The goal here, I guess, is get a car. And so what kind of cars might I get? And one thing that you might not be aware of is that there is a massive used car market, nationwide. And of course, there are many cars in that market. It's only some fraction of which are electric. But the amount of the number of electric cars used cars is going up quite a bit, as of course electric cars have become more popular. And so, for example, our biggest supplier in the wholesale market has about 5,000 used EVs for sale right now. So, I guess I would like people to be aware that while you might not get everything, there are a lot of different vehicles available to you, recently owned, recently driven EVs. That I think have a very positive nature to them, positive feature. So let me and I will show you some of the ones that we find are popular. Then there are many varieties that you can look for, but these are some of the more common ones. So the first slide shows you some of the relatively inexpensive. Prices have gone up a bit, but they're still relatively inexpensive. So there's kind of a classic set of these three cars are kind of classic cars in the EV world. So there's the Bolt, originally the EV, now the EUV. Those are available, commonly available. You can get them maybe $18,000 for a not so nice one. And then again, these cars vary dramatically in price depending on how good they are, how many miles they have, how beat up they are, all those factors. So something between $18,000, $28,000 pre-tax, pre-registration. The Leaf on the far right is a little bit of an orphan because they've stopped making a lot of these cars. But the Leaf is definitely not a current car very much. But it is still something that is very attractive and inexpensive. So a Leaf hatchback like the Bolt, you can get basically for maybe a little as $15,000. Again, that's a car, not a golf cart, and maybe $25,000 at the high end, a really fancy one. And then, as everyone knows, though the Tesla world is in a real kerfuffle, and that has led to some price decreases actually in Teslas. But you can get a Model 3, the vanilla car, the classic electric car that people talk about. You can get that for probably as little as $20,000, and that would be not a bad one. And so those are three cars. If you're saying I want an electric car, I want a relatively inexpensive one, maybe a smallish one, those would be three great choices that are widely available, much of variety, different colors and trims, and easy to get. in the wholesale market. So that's kind of one set of cars that you might think about as maybe a goal in mind.
I was just going to add the Nissan Leaf. Like if you have a set commute, it's and maybe have a different car in your household as well that you can use for road trips. The Nissan Leaf is great as a commuter car. You know, it has enough range to go get back and forth
Yeah,
to
that's
work or
yeah,
running errands. Yeah, I wouldn't.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. A lot of these cars have certain niches that where they fit. Higher end, a little bit higher end. Some of the cars that we see now, I'm a big fan of the Korean manufacturers, Hyundai and Kia. The EV6 and the Ioniq 5 on the left, very popular cars. Hard to get for under 25K. Well, in fact, not possible really to get a good one. But in the high 20s, you can get a very nice EV6 or Ioniq 5, a lot cheaper than they are typically new. You can get those cars. The Model Y, again, a go-to car for a lot of people, has come down in price as little as 25,000, although that's pushing it. But again, that's a very very popular, the most popular, I guess, EV that's available. A lot of those are available. And then the Mach-E, I would probably recommend it less for reliability issues. But the Mach-E and there are a bunch of other models and makes as well. But the Mach-E is one that a lot of people find attractive. And these are all cars that are easy to get, commonly available, a variety of colors, a variety of trims in the used market, in the wholesale market. Another variation on this theme, which probably people on this call may be aware of, but a lot of people that are in the EV world are not as kind of up to date on this, is the plug-in hybrid world. Plug-in hybrids have become immensely popular in recent weeks, months. When a year ago, 2 years ago, they were kind of an orphan vehicle. Now in the used market, they've become the most popular car just about. Everybody wants to get a plug-in hybrid, very flexible car, right? At home, in the local area, in the urban area, it's an electric car. You want to go to Los Angeles, you don't want to worry about range, you're fine. And so it's a very, very good thing to consider, both environmentally, but also from terms of lifestyle. If you basically have one car and you can't really risk not having it charged, you're a single mom, you live in a rural area, and you need to drive long distances, then these cars are very, very useful. So these are some of the ones that we see a lot, kind of our go-to cars. They're hard to get these days, frankly, and prices have gone up. But the Kia Niro, I have one of those, a 2018 plug-in hybrid. It comes in other flavors, but that's a great subcompact SUV type all-purpose car. It's a subcompact by today's standards, perfectly big car, in my opinion, but smaller than most cars these days. But that's a great plug-in hybrid choice. The middle one, Toyota gets the award for reliability, certainly based on reputation, if not actual performance. And the Prius Prime is a go-to car for a lot of people. It's hatchback, you have to kind of like the configuration, but it's a great car if you want the most reliable, likely plug-in hybrid. And then very close second to that reliability-wise, and a very traditional car, you want a traditional sedan with a trunk and leather seats and a nice ride, then the Honda Clarity is a great choice. Again, hard to get these days. These cars are hard to get, but still possible to get. But those are three kind of very, very useful and relatively inexpensive plug-in hybrids for those who feel the need to have a kind of both electricity and gas.
I have some friends with PHEVs, and they do like 90% of their driving on electricity, and they really just save the gas tank for road trips. Some of them are going to the gas station like twice a year. So it's nice to have that option.
And one thing that we'll probably touch on a little bit later, if you have a plug-in hybrid or even all electric, it's quite possible to keep it charged using a trickle charger and house current, or at worst, a portable charger and 240 volts. I have a lot of friends in Annika, similar situation. A lot of people that have, let's say, a plug-in hybrid, they drive, let's say, 40 miles or something, 35 miles or less a day. They never think about gas, and they never think about charging either, because they just plug it in their house current and it's fine the next day. So I have a lot of friends like that who drive, one in particular drives a Clarity, but just loves it for that very fact. Here's some other, a little bit higher end plug-in hybrids. People want bigger cars, more functional cars, all-wheel drive, go to Tahoe. I have a dog and I have a stroller, those kind of cars. We get a lot of people that ask for those kinds of things. These cars are more in that range. They're bigger, they're heavier. Most of them have all-wheel drive, and they're more functional, kind of in an SUV sense. So these are, again, these are all good. The RAV4 Prime is, again, the aspirational vehicle for a lot of people. The Ford Escape, again, very popular. And then there are a few less common cars. The Volvo is not really as popular, but again, it's in that kind of range of bigger SUV type vehicles that you might want to get. Then lastly, trucks and vans. We find ourselves dealing more with that. The Pacifica, a plug-in hybrid, is really the only minivan. It's unfortunately not well known for reliability, but if you want a minivan, and it's quite inexpensive, Pacifica is a reasonable choice. It's probably your only choice, but that is possible. As long as you're aware that you're not getting the most reliable car on earth, that might be fine. The F-150, Lightning, big vehicle. If you want a truck, a real truck, you can get that one. You can also get the Rivian, shown here, more expensive. And then we just bought our first Silverado. So again, there are these all-electric truck vehicles that definitely you can, if you want to get one of those are available, and they're available used. But there's, I guess, in summary on all this, although electric vehicles are not anywhere near as popular, unfortunately, yes, yet as gas cars, there is a pretty big selection, wide selection, different types of cars, brands of cars, configurations of cars, fuel types available to you if you want to go into the used market.
Great. Thank you, Adam. I'm going to just do a little bit of a deep dive on some of these incentives. So again, this is the federal tax credit for a pre-owned EV, 30% of the sale price up to $4,000 max. So the good thing is it's available as a point of sale rebate. So if you purchase through Emotion Autos, they will take that $4,000 off, or the 30% of the sale price off of the price that you are paying them. There is no tax liability required as well, which is great. The income caps, I know this is a federal program. The income caps can be a little rough in California, for sure. And then the EV has to be $25,000 or less in order to qualify. And there are plenty of EVs out there under $25,000 for sure. And it has to be at least 2 years old. So now we're in 2025, so it needs to be a 2023 or older model year. The dealer has to be registered with the IRS. Emotion Autos is. If you go through a different dealer, or just, if you want to get an EV tomorrow and you just go straight to a dealership to get one, make sure they are registered with the IRS if you qualify for this upfront rebate. Also, this can be used as a tax credit when you file your taxes, but due to the current situation, we recommend that you take that credit upfront as quickly as you can. Okay, so these are some of the lower income rebates that I'm going to talk about right now. They're actually grants that you apply for in advance. First of all, take a look at the household income caps. Just good to see if you qualify. So yeah, you apply for this in advance, and you may have to wait a few weeks, wait until you get that grant in hand, and then you would bring it to a dealership. So if you qualify for this grant, I would sign up now with Emotion Autos on our Ride and Drive Clean campaign, because you have to sign up this month in order to benefit from some of the exclusive features of this campaign. Adam, do you agree if you qualify for this grant, sign up now?
Yes, let me briefly explain. Different programs have different deadlines. DCAP, unfortunately, gives you, once you get the award, 30 days to get your car. And that's not a long time, and it's particularly not a long time for us. So yeah, so for us, if you want to work with us, let us know that you're applying for such a program. Let us know you're anticipating getting an award, and then we'll be ready to move when you get the award. There are other programs that give you much longer time, and I constantly complain, I should use that word, that's probably the right word, to the DCAP folks about that 30-day period, but that's the way it is right now. It's not a very long time.
Okay, the Clean Cars for All program is available all over California. Both of these are. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. There's a wait list right now in the Bay Area. It is possible for you to get this. So this car, actually, it should say up to $12,000 in certain parts of the Bay Area in disadvantaged communities. This is a retire and replace program. So you do have to retire a 2010 or older EV in order to qualify for this grant. And same thing, you get the grant and then you bring that to the dealership and then you find your car. Okay, so the PG&E pre-owned EV rebate, if you get your bill from PG&E and you get a pre-owned car, anybody gets $1,000. You have to apply for this after you get your EV. I will say that the income caps vary on your zip code, so this is a sample income cap, but definitely take a look where you live. So yeah, you do have to apply for this within 180 days of taking delivery, whether it's the 1,000 or the 4,000. All right, I just wanted to talk about this other savings opportunity that we have going on right now. This is not for a pre-owned EV, this is for a new EV. So this is our May discount campaign that's going on. So we have we work with our partner Cartelligent. They have negotiated exclusive pricing on these two very popular EVs. The exclusive discount on the Ioniq 5 is $1,000 off MSRP, and the Volkswagen ID4 is $4,500 off MSRP. So let's go back to the Ioniq 5. So in addition to that exclusive discount that we have for this campaign, there is a lease rebate for up to $15,000. So you stack that with the $1,000. Or if you pay cash or finance, it does qualify for the federal tax credit. So you get that additional $7,500 upfront. And if you have a similar car at home, they have something called a conquest deal. Hyundai is just happy that they're moving on to their brand. So they could give you an additional $1,000. So that's how we say up to $17,000 of savings. And with this ID4, in addition to the $4,500, there's a lease rebate for $7,500. If you want to pay cash, you can get an additional $5,000 off and 0% financing if you're financing it. So the way to participate in this is to, again, go to our website and sign up. I will be putting the link to this in the webinar a little later. Okay, I'm going to hand this back to Adam. He's going to talk a little bit about why a pre-owned EV. I mean,
Right.
I should say I could probably do this slide too because I bought 3 used EVs. I'll tell you the one little tip. The first one that I got through a dealership, and I told myself I'm never going to get a black car again, but they only had black cars at the dealership. So I didn't have a lot of options, and I ended up with the black car. I love it still, but yeah. All right.
Yeah. So basically, I think anybody who's looking at a car, looking for cars, understands that there are kind of pros and cons to getting a new one and a used one. And people debate that all the time. And then, there's good reasons here, good reasons there. I do think, honestly, that for electric cars, and probably including plug-in hybrids, the balance may be even more strongly in favor of used. And that's probably an important thing to observe, that if you track the battery health closely, then a lot of the reasons you don't want a used car go away. Right? I mean, you don't want a used car because you don't know how it's been treated. You don't know if the rings are bad. You don't know if the timing belt needs to be replaced. You don't know if the oil's been changed regularly. All the reasons that you don't want a used car often have to do with the engine and transmission and the oil, things that don't come up, at least with an all-electric. And I would say some of that applies to plug-in hybrids in the sense that I guess people who have plug-in hybrids also maintain them well, and you can check on that. But so I would say that the pros and cons, again, of used versus new are weighted favorably towards a used EV compared to a new EV. Not that you shouldn't consider that. And sometimes the deals are so good, we run into this ourselves. We run into deals where people said, I'm going to get this car, I'm going to lease this car for this price. And we say, go for it. There's nothing, we can't come close to meeting that deal. I think when the Nissan Leaf they were doing deals on Nissan Leafs that were so cheap, and we just said, we can't compete with that. and we shouldn't. Go get one. And so we're comfortable, completely comfortable, if you were to say, look, I'm not going to get a used car from you or get a used car. I think a new one is going to be a great deal, and that's fine. So that's one advantage. Another advantage, of course, is that at least for us, you in the used market, you get this massive selection. So you can get a wide variety of brands, different models, different makes, conditions. If you happen to like or be okay with beat up cars, you can get a cheap beat up car, or you can get a newer, very nice looking car. We can't forget the environment. That's clearly a big factor. And it is true, if you use an asset that already exists, namely and don't ask a manufacturer to make you a new one, that is better for the planet than buying a new car. So reusing, recycling, which is a kind of recycling, reusing, repurposing these cars is a great thing. So overall, I would say we see some advantages to buying used as opposed to new, and not a lot of disadvantages. And I should mention that very last one, battery is an issue. And by and large, batteries have performed better than people thought, with few exceptions. And you do get a long warranty on the battery. So it's less of an issue than I think most people think it is.
Okay.
Next. And then, yeah, so let me talk a bit about our unique approach, because it is, the way we approach things is a bit different. So the way we approach the market is that we will find you the car you want. So in the used wholesale market, and that has advantages and disadvantages. We think the advantages mostly outweigh the disadvantages, but that's not, certainly it doesn't work for everybody. So the main advantage for us, for you with us, is you get a very, very big selection. So we have access to all cars essentially that are being sold today in the United States. It's on the wholesale level. Our biggest supplier right now, I think I mentioned, has about 5,000 electric cars, has roughly 250,000 cars for sale right now. That's just one supplier. So there are a lot of cars available for you to choose among if you're going to operate with us. You don't have to basically have the car that's on the lot. That's just an advantage that we have. Second one is, I think, particularly important, I guess, if you have dealt with dealers and with lack of information. One thing that the wholesale market gives us and gives you is a very clear process and a lot of detailed information. So while we can't have you test drive the car, we can't have you stand next to the car, we can be very sure that you will know more about that car than you would typically know from any regular dealer. So we provide 30 pictures of every dent, every ding, every scrape, every scratch of the car, Carfax report, condition report, recall report. So you should be absolutely convinced legitimately that this is the car you want, and the car, when you get it, is going to be as good or better than described. And so that's a process, I think, that actually, in some ways, although it takes time, is better than, in some ways, better than the kind of process where you go down to the corner and go down to the dealer and buy the car. And this third one is that, as I said, that we stand behind our products. We offer this return policy so that if you, for some reason, which hasn't happened yet, if for some reason you say, that car doesn't really work for me, then you're out a very small amount of money. So you do get essentially the right to change your mind for very, very little money, in which case I think you should feel confident, we should feel confident that the deal is going to work. And then this fourth one, I don't know how many of you have dealt with car dealers, but, and as a used car dealer, I guess I can say this, by and large, the reputation is well deserved. And I don't like saying that, but that the typical people we deal with in the used car business, I wouldn't say are particularly honest, and you just have to and you just have to accept that. And so with us, I think you'd find this out just by dealing with us. You'll find us very honest, very transparent, very ethical, and that's just the way we do business. So those are some of the pros of the approach that we take. And I think there are a couple of cons. We just have to be very clear about that. One is that you do not get to physically sit in the car, drive the car, that particular car. So if you have never driven a Kia Niro plug-in hybrid, if you've never driven a Tesla Model Y, you absolutely need to do that before you buy a car from us. So you don't want to be surprised that I can't see out the back window of the car, right? So you have to basically be comfortable that that is the right car for you, and that has to be done elsewhere. You can't do that with us. When we buy a car for you, we buy a car for you. The car is now yours, and it's now sitting in a mechanic, and you've never seen it before. So that's just a different process. It's worked really well for virtually all of our customers, but it's a different process. So the pros are you get this big selection, you get this transparency, but you do not get to physically be with the car before you own it, and that's a downside. And related to that is simply the fact that the process takes longer than usual. It's not, or longer than typical, I'd say. It's not something where you can just go to a dealer, see a car and say, that's the car I want. With us, you can say, that's the car I want, but then it's going to be, okay, we're going to have to get it. We have to buy it for you. We have to get it. We have to pay for it. We have to ship it up to our mechanic. They have to look at it. They have to replace all the parts that we think are no good. We have to then deliver it to you. That activity, which, again, we're comfortable doing, that will take some time. Not months, but at least a couple of weeks, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks. And that means you can't satisfy your need for the car right away. That's one of the cons of our approach. So those are basically the balanced, I hope, balanced view of our particular approach.
So there's a question from Riley. Do you usually rely on the Carfax reports for the history of the car, or do you use gather other information?
Good question. So in the market that we deal with, Carfax is only one of the products that is used. There's one called AutoCheck. For the history of the car, we rely a lot on Carfax and AutoCheck. We also rely a lot on the wholesale market, the wholesale auctioneer, because they're at risk if this is not true. In other words, if the car actually was used as a taxi and they didn't tell you, that's a big problem for us, of course, but also for the auctioneer. So we do get a detailed what's called a condition report, and that report will indicate other kinds of uses. And again, if the car has been, for example, just to lay it out, if the car had been used in a way that was affecting us and that had not been described, you and we would have the right to basically go back to the auction house and say, guess what? That's not true. This was used as a taxi in Phoenix, so I want my money back. Now, whether you get your money back, whether you trade in the car, whether you buy a different car, that all has to get settled. But by and large, the wholesalers that we deal with are responsible for a vehicle that is in fact as described. And so if there's something missing that's important in the description, or there's something that was not true, we need to make that right in some way.
All right. Somebody also mentioned that it's a little scary to buy a used vehicle with the auction process because cars are moved around from place to place around the country.
The auctions we're dealing with are, and I would say, very up and up. I mean, basically, when you trade a car into Stevens Creek Toyota, they might sell it. They might say, we don't sell Hondas, so we're just going to give it to the wholesaler to sell for us. So by and large, we get, I think, a perfectly good selection of cars on the wholesale market. It's not a salvage market. These are trade-ins, lease returns, fleet returns. They are, I would say they're perfectly good cars by and large. And then you would know if that's not the case. I mean, they would have to basically describe if that's not the case. So I would say we have not had. I mean, we've done this a lot, and have had very few problems. And if there's a problem, again, you don't have to buy the car. I mean, that's basically the car shows up and there's a problem with it, then we're not happy, you're not happy, but you don't buy the car. As simple as that.
Mac has a question. What percentage of cars come from out of state?
It's really a decision for you. Basically, if you want to basically have a car that's from California, we can find a car in California. I would say because transportation costs are high, I'd say 75 to 80% of cars come from the West Coast, come from California, come from Oregon, come from Nevada. So a pretty high fraction are California cars because transport costs are very high. But we bought cars from all across the nation. We have bought cars in New York and in Texas and in Georgia and Florida. Occasionally get a good deal that way. Occasionally that's only where the cars is the only place you can find one. But it's mostly, I would say, as I said, 60, 70, 80% California.
I was going to also say, just to kind of review how this process works, since I've gone through it a couple of times. So basically, I will tell Adam, this is the specific car that I want. I don't want to pay more than this. I don't want more than this amount of miles on it. I want it to be gray or white. I want this trim package. I want this. I want that. I tell him exactly what I want. And so that's what he is looking for. So you can tell him, I only want an EV that's been in California.
Right.
And if he can't find that, then, you won't get an EV. You'll get your $500 deposit back, essentially. Gary has some questions. The reason that I'm going to read these questions is that this webinar is being recorded, and I want to make sure that other people can't see what's in the chat. So Gary has a couple questions. Please explain how purchasing from an auction works.
Right.
Does your customer identify a specific car and agreeing on a price for the auction, communicating with you in real time regarding price during the auction, or does it work some other way?
Yeah,
Great question.
Yeah, again, and I'll try to not spend too much time on this, but I mean, I'm just trying to form a response. We have a conversation about the kind of car you want. So we do. It's not done in real time. So basically, what would happen is, let's pick a car. You say, I like that Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. We have a discussion saying, we think we'll be able to get it for $24,000. And we agree with you that if we get it, we can sell it to you for $24,000 or less, then that's going to be, that's a fair deal. What we then do is we then go into the market and we basically have to bid for the car, pay for all the fees, fix up the car, and we have to decide, will we do that for $24,000? So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's not a real-time transaction. It is, you and I will agree on what a fair price is for the car that we show you. And if we can deliver to you for that or less, it's a good deal. So I don't know we actually have to spend, that's what our job is, to go into the real-time market and figure out, can we afford to pay for this car? Can we, what do we have to do to fix it up? And that's what we do for you. So it's a different, we are basically on the same side. But it's not you don't participate with us in real time in the auction, if that makes any sense. And then, we make more than 500. we wouldn't survive. Our target margin, again, transparency, our target margin is 8% over our costs. So we pay for the car, we pay the auction fee, the transport fee, the inspection fee, the reconditioning cost, and the delivery cost. Those are our third-party costs. Doesn't count our labor. Those are the costs that we pay to get the car to you, and we target 8% over that. That's how we do our calculations. But then to protect you, we pick a number. So you might say, look, I want to get this car, and I think it's only fair to only pay $30,000 for it. And so we will say, okay, we will get you that car for $30,000. We might come back and say to you, we couldn't do it. We were outbid. We just did everything we could to get the car. Or we might come back and say, guess what? It'll be $29,600, not $30,000, because we got a great deal. So it's a different process. And Annika's been through this twice.
And I'll say sometimes there is a little bit of urgency. So I'll give an example. Just in this past month, I got a Polestar 2. And we tried a few days, and the first ones that came, we weren't exactly sure about what we wanted. And then, Adam was like, well, there are going to be 2 up for auction tomorrow that we think are looking pretty good, but we didn't love those 2 cars. So we decided to kind of pass on those. And he's like, with the price, and then he was able to say, the price went a little higher than I thought it would on these. So, so then we kind of discussed price again and decided, I think he emailed me the next day. He's like, there's a good one coming up. I think this is exactly what you want. It has all the features, and he's like, do you want to do it? And I'm like, go for it. And then he found it. He was able to get that one.
Yeah. And I don't want to put words in Annika's mouth, but I think she'd agree, was a longer process or different and longer, but the end result was very good.
Very good. Yeah. We're happy with very happy with the 2 EVs that we got. This is a great question, Riley. Which of the lower cost EVs have faster charging speeds? On that first slide that had the Chevy Bolt, the Tesla Model 3, and the Nissan Leaf, the Tesla, for sure.
Yeah.
So the Chevy Bolt is a little bit, it's takes about 45 minutes if you're on a road trip to go from 20% to 80% charge. Whereas with the Teslas, it's more like 20 minutes. Like if I drive to LA in a Tesla, I drive 2.5, 3 hours, stop for 20 minutes. Drive 2.5, 3 hours, stop for 20 minutes. Something to consider when you're on a road trip is when you're using fast charging. The first, yeah, it's funny, Riley, as our board has had a lot of discussion about Tesla recently, and we are all fine with used Tesla because it doesn't go, the money doesn't go to Tesla, but it is, yeah, it can feel awkward for people to drive a Tesla. I mean, people have bumper stickers for sure. Um, what should I say? What was I going to say? Something about, oh yeah. So yes. So what else? The Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6 have really fast charging.
Right.
Those are very, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, for sure. So those are very fast charging. The earlier Kias and Hyundais, the Hyundai Kona and the Kia Niro have a little slower charging. But actually, I don't know about like I know that Kia Niro 2023 was kind of like remade. It may have faster charging. Something about the Hyundais and the Kias that I'll point out is they have something called bidirectional charging. And so if there's a power outage, you do have to get a little adapter for this, but if there's a power outage, you could power up your refrigerator for a week with the electricity that's in your EV. So this is also great if you like to go camping. You could bring an electric kettle, a little induction cooking plate. I've done this before, and a couple of other electric things, and your coffee maker, and you could camp all electric. No need for propane. So that's pretty cool, but very nice resiliency measure. The newer Kia Niros, like 2023 Wave trim level has that, and then the all of the EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5s have that as well, and the Ioniq 6, which is more of a sedan. So the Ioniq 6, if you're looking for a smaller car, that's more of a sedan. Has fast charging as well. But if you're charging at home, that really doesn't matter so much. It's pretty standard, the charging at home. It's really just if you're on a road trip, if you're thinking about like fast charging, level 3 charging. Okay. That was a good Q&A. I have some more slides, a little bit more about how to EV. So many people worry about charging. We've talked a little bit about charging today. And for most people, 80 to 90% of charging is done at home or at work, and that's really easy. So at home, you can just plug in your charger that comes with your EV into a standard 120 volt outlet. There are no install costs besides perhaps an extension cord, and you would want to get a heavy duty, grounded extension cord. It will give you between 30 and 50 miles of charge in 8 hours or so. In the Bay Area, on average, people drive 25 miles a day. So this simple solution called Level 1 is enough for most people. If you drive more than 40 miles a day, a good option is to see if you can charge at work. And if that's not available, you will want to purchase a home charging station for level 2 charging. Really, all that means is you'll want to get a 240 volt outlet installed close to where you're parking your car. And with some EVs, you don't need to get a charging station. You can just get a cable that plugs into the 240. That's what I do. I just got this Polestar and I just have the cable. It's a very thick cable, so it goes very fast. Fast level 2 charging. I just plug it into my 240 volt outlet. If I think somebody brought up here something about if you have a washer or dryer installed. Yeah, so you could get something called a smart splitter. If you already have a 240 volt outlet that's close to where you're going to be parking your car, you could get a smart splitter, which is really a 240 volt safety device. So you're using one or the other. It's really so you don't blow your circuit. Yes. So, okay. So I want to point out that charging an EV is different from filling up a gas car. When I had a gas car, I would wait till it was like 1/8 full. I'd go to the gas station, drive for a week, go back to the gas station, just, once a week kind of thing. But if it's available to you, if you have charging at home, I'm really just replenishing what I used that day. So if I drove 25 miles and I'm charging on my level 2 charger, I'm really only using charging for an hour because it takes less than an hour to replenish it. If I'm plugging, I actually have one 120-volt outlet and then one 240 because I have three EVs, and most of the time it's enough to just plug into the 120, just replenishing what I used that day. Um, the first step for both of these is to check in with an electrician. You just really want to make sure that your electric panel is all set up for this, and that sometimes with an electrician, you can just take a picture of your electric panel and they can get back to you that way. That's what we've done. My husband happened to know that, the plug that we were plugging into, the level 1 plug, when we initially had an EV and had a long extension cord, that it was not going to blow our circuit if we charged our EV there. So if you have some level of awareness, that's fine. Otherwise, you could check in with your electrician. So charging away from home is easy too. There are many level 2 public chargers available. So when you're charging around town and running errands, that's fine. When I go to the farmer's market, I plug in and get 25 miles for the hour that I'm there, and I pay like $1 for that. Level 2 public charging is typically more affordable than level 3 public charging. But when you are on a road trip, you will want to fast charge with a level 3 charger, which is the fastest charging available. And that's what we talked about for most EVs, less than 30 minutes, 30 minutes or so. Some of the older models like the Chevy Bolt, about 45 minutes, the Nissan Leaf as well. So the newer cars have faster charging typically. I will say there are three standards for charging. For fast charging. The one on the left here is what is the CHAdeMO system that just the Nissan Leaf uses. And there are some chargers, like if I go to an Electrify America charging station, maybe there are 8 chargers and one of them will be available for the Nissan Leaf. So it's not as easy to charge on a road trip with a Nissan Leaf, I would say. So if you're doing a lot of public charging, I think a Nissan Leaf is probably not the best bet. The one on the right here is the Tesla charging port. I'll talk more about that in a minute. The one in the middle is the one that most cars have. It's the CCS standard. So about a year ago, an announcement was made that basically the Tesla charging port is now the North American charging standard. So every single manufacturer of EVs is going to be providing this year an adapter so that you can use the Tesla supercharging stations. So that is a really kind of a game changer, because what we've seen, our organization and many others have done studies about fast chargers, and the Tesla superchargers are incredibly reliable, like 99% reliable. They have people working on maintenance, maintaining them. Sometimes I've arrived at a big, charging station and maintenance guys are there repairing them right away when they're broken. So that's really great. We've seen reliability rates at like Electrify America and EVgo at like 75% reliability, which is not great when you're on a road trip. So we think this is super exciting. Some EVs in 2025, I know some of the Hyundais and Kias already have the Tesla port in the car in the 2025 model. And that's where we're moving with new EVs. So we're moving toward that model where every car is going to be able to use the Tesla supercharging network. The North American Charging Standard, or NACS, as we call it. I know some people are in favor of not calling it the supercharging network, but just NACS. Okay. So when you do get your EV, it's ideal to charge your EV from rooftop solar. There has been a federal tax credit for 30%. It's still available now, 30% of the cost of solar and storage. I don't know what's going to happen with that, unfortunately. It is a great feeling to charge your car from the electricity that you generate from your own roof. And if you already have rooftop solar, it's great. You can suck up all that energy that you're generating. Um, if you are not ready for solar, the City of Palo Alto Utilities, our sponsor, their electricity is already carbon neutral. And CPAU has some of the most affordable electricity around. To make the most of renewables, we recommend that you charge your EV during peak solar hours, and if that's not available, after midnight. City of Palo Alto will be moving to a time of use rate plan in the future. Other utilities and CCAs have clean options as well, and some have, and they all have special reduced time of use rates. So in my household, we have an EV time of use rate, which makes it very affordable to charge between midnight and 3 p.m. That means that I try to use as much electricity in my house during that time because it's twice as expensive if I use electricity between 4 and 9 p.m. So if you don't want to go for the full EV, there are more moderate time of use rates that aren't as different as that. So, I set my dishwasher to go after midnight. I do my laundry during the day. So, yeah, if you're able to do that, then, the EV time of use rate can work really great. What else? Yeah, if you live in an apartment or a condo, there are several charging solutions available, and more solutions are on the way. I mean, it's really 55% of people in California live in apartments and condos. So it's a really big issue, and there are multi-pronged solutions, and many people are working on trying to work out solutions. If you park in a shared garage, for example. So some people charge by plugging into a standard 120-volt outlet if that's available. There are these new smart outlets that are inexpensive solutions to charging that also handle billing. People charge at work, and people charge at public fast chargers. Advocate to your property manager or property owner if you're in that situation. A little bit more about charging on the road. So taking a road trip is getting easier all the time. There are thousands of public charging stations that provide fast charging, and using apps like PlugShare and a better route planner, you could map out your trip in advance. And so you know exactly where you're going to go and charge. But some of these newer EVs also have, navigation apps built into them. Tesla has a very easy to use navigation system. So these are the different charging networks. I recommend that you download all of these to your phone, hook up your credit card. So if you are on a road trip, you can easily stop and charge. A little bit more about who we are, what we do. We run, so Ride and Drive Clean, we're a nonprofit here to help you go electric. We run these EV savings campaigns. We have both a new and pre-owned campaign going on right now, both through May. We put on events. We've had several events in the last few months. We have another one coming up in Novato on May 31st. And we have ongoing webinars. So feel free to join us for another webinar. I just wanted to say before we move to Q&A, I'd like to thank you all for attending the program today, wherever you are in your journey to an EV. I hope it was helpful, and thank you to City of Palo Alto Utilities for sponsoring this webinar. Thank you to Emotion Autos for partnering with us on our campaign and on this webinar. If you can make the switch to driving electric now, we're here to help. The sooner, the better. If you're not ready now, can we have your support by pledging to make your next car electric? Our biggest ask really is please don't buy a new gas car. It will be on this earth for 12 to 15 years, creating lots of emissions, and we need to stop doing that as quickly as possible. I have MCE for power, but PG&E does the billing. Does that mean I would qualify for the PG&E incentives? Yes, you would qualify for the PG&E incentive and the MCE incentive if your income qualifies. So
Right.
those are stackable. Yeah, so that's the thing with our CCAs. We still get the bill from PG&E because they deliver our electricity and our gas, but we have the option in the Bay Area to have have cleaner and more affordable electricity through our CCA, actually. Oh yeah, how do rebates work with leasing? Oh, okay, let me go back. I'm gonna actually share my screen. So for the EV discount campaign. I think this is what you're referring to, the one with the Hyundai Ioniq and the Volkswagen. So you work with Cartelligent. The exclusive discount that they are offering, is listed here, $1,000 and $4,500. And then if you lease, you get this additional discount. So that gets all calculated into, you'll want to talk to Cartelligent about that, about how it works, but it gets worked into your monthly payments. So people have lower monthly payments for the lease. So it all depends on your, leasing all depends on your credit score, how much you put down, and then, your monthly payment. But so it comes off of this, the total cost that it would normally cost. If that helps. So yeah, I would talk to Cartelligent more about that if you have more questions about the lease. All right. Well, thank you all for coming.